My brother asked me to print a document from his email. That's when I came across the folder named after me. Can you imagine finding out your family, the people who were supposed to protect you, had actually been systematically stealing from you for 8 long years? Not just skimming a little, but meticulously planning to cut you out completely. And I found out because my brother asked me to print an email. Seriously, what the hell happened next? Let me tell you. Seriously, I'm still trying to figure out if I'm the crazy one, or if my whole family is. Maybe both. But you guys can be the judge. My name's Hunter. I'm 32, and for the past 8 years, I've basically been running a small empire of rental properties for my family. This whole thing started when I was 24. My dad, Roger, a contractor his whole life, thought rentals were the smart play for retirement. And honestly, he wasn't wrong about the idea. It was solid. The execution, though? Oh, boy. That's a whole other story. Here's the deal. My parents put up the initial cash and co-signed the loans. My older brother, Derek, who's 36 and a hotshot in pharmaceutical sales, chipped in some money too. But me? I was the boots on the ground. The grunt work, the late-night emergencies, the entire headache of actually running 4 rental properties. Tenant screening lease agreements, those 2 a.m. calls when a pipe explodes, yeah, that was me. The bookkeeping, the repairs, literally everything. And I treated it like my own business because that's what my dad always said it was. He'd look me in the eye and say, "Hunter, this is a family business. We all benefit. We all contribute." And like a fool, I believe him. For 8 whole years, I believe him. To give you a taste of what running everything really looked like, imagine this. 2 years ago, on a random Tuesday, my alarm went off at 5:45 a.m. because a tenant texted me that her kitchen faucet was spraying water sideways. I bolted over before work, shut off the valve, called the plumber, waited for him, then rushed to my actual IT job. Lunch, reviewing rental applications. After work, driving to another unit to change a smoke detector battery and check on a drywall repair. Got home at 8 p.m., ate a frozen pizza, then an hour of bookkeeping, and collapsed. That was a normal week. And for all that, I got a flat $1,200 a month across all 4 properties. Derek, meanwhile, got quarterly profit distributions. I never questioned it because Dad always said, "It's temporary. Hunter will formalize everything once the properties are stable." Guess what? They've been stable for 6 years. Okay, let's talk about my brother, Derek, because you need the full picture here. He's the golden child. Always has been. The kind of guy who walks into a room and instantly becomes the center of attention. Not because he's loud, but because he's just polished. Great smile, firm handshake, always says exactly the right thing. I thought I'd made peace with that dynamic years ago. Derek married Vanessa 3 years back, and she's a perfect fit for the family. Sweet as pie when everyone's watching, but subtly dismissive of me when they're not. You know, those little digs. "Oh, Hunter, you're still driving that truck?" My mom, Diane. She's a family architect, the one who orchestrates everything. She decides Thanksgiving, who sits where, the ultimate planner. I never doubted her love for us both, but it was always different. Derek got the accolades, the celebrations. I got the expectations. For him, it was, "We're so proud of you." For me, it was, "Well, someone has to handle it." And my dad, he's a good man, hard-working, built things with his hands his whole life. But when it comes to conflict, he just vanishes. He avoids it like a plague. If my mom and Derek were on the same page about something, Dad would just quietly agree and melt into the background. My girlfriend, Leah, she's a paralegal, so her brain is just wired to spot things that don't add up. For years, she'd been telling me something was off. "Why does Derek get quarterly distributions, but you just get a flat fee?" she'd ask. Or, "Have you actually seen the full financial, Hunter?" And I just shrug it off, you know? I trusted my family. That was my monumental 8-year-long mistake. Then, 3 weeks ago, we were at Derek's house for one of their fancy Sunday barbecues. You know, nice house, great neighborhood. The brand new boat he just bought gleaming in the driveway. He pulled me into his home office, all casual like, "Hey, can you just pull up my Gmail and print that mortgage attachment?" Gotta flip these burgers. Totally normal request, right? I sat down, opened his laptop, pulled up Gmail. The attachment was right there. Easy. Took maybe 30 seconds to print. But here's the thing about Gmail. That sidebar, it shows your folders. And my eyes snagged on something I almost scrolled past. H Properties. Just H Properties. Not Hunter's Properties. Not Hunter, just H, like a sterile filing system. Something you'd name if you were trying to be discreet. My hand was already on the mouse to close the tab, but I froze. Something in my gut, that same little voice Leah had been echoing for years, screamed at me to click it, and I did. 14 emails. Spreadsheets, screenshots, forwarded threads between Derek, my mom, and some unknown email address. My heart was pounding. I heard Vanessa's voice getting closer. Derek was outside. I didn't have time to read. So I did something I'm not proud of, but I do again in a heartbeat. I forwarded 3 of the most suspicious emails to myself. Then I deleted them from his sent folder, cleared the trash, printed the mortgage document, closed the laptop, and walked out. Vanessa was right there in the hallway. "Find what you needed?" she chirped. "Yeah, all set," I said, forcing a smile. I spent the rest of that barbecue pretending to be normal. Ate a burger, drank a beer, talked Phillies with my dad, even laughed at Derek's terrible impression of his boss. But the whole time, my phone sat heavy in my pocket, holding those unread emails. When Leah and I finally left, around 7 p.m., she looked at me in the truck. "You okay?" "You got quiet." I just blurted out, "I found something on Derek's computer." "What kind of something?" she asked. "I don't know yet," I said, "but there's a folder with my initial on it, and it's full of spreadsheets." She didn't say, "I told you so," not a word. She just reached over, squeezed my hand, and in that moment, I knew I wasn't alone. The second we got home, I was at the kitchen table, laptop open. Leah started making tea, her presence a steady anchor. I opened that first email. It was a spreadsheet dated 4 years back. Column 1, actual rental income. Column 2, reported H. My blood ran cold. The numbers weren't even in the same ballpark. Let me really paint a picture for you here. This spreadsheet had 4 tabs, one for each property, and each tab meticulously tracked the actual rent coming in versus what they'd been telling me was coming in. Derek, he was always the finance guy, sending me quarterly statements, saying his buddy was good with numbers. Those statements showed income, expenses, my measly management fee, and the rest split between him and my parents. But the rental income on his statements was always lower than what was actually collected, not by some obvious, huge amount. That's the evil genius of it. They weren't taking thousands a month. It was a few hundred here, a few hundred there, just enough to add up to a truly staggering amount over 8 years, but subtle enough that I would never, ever question a single quarter on its own. Whoever designed this, they knew exactly how much they could steal before I'd finally catch on. And yeah, I had a pretty good idea whoever was. The second email was worse. A thread between Derek and my mom, going back almost 2 years. No subject line, just pure, unadulterated plotting. I felt something cold, heavy, settle in my chest, and it hasn't really left since. My mom started it. D, the management fee we're paying H is getting harder to justify. He's doing less now. We should talk about reducing it after the holidays. Derek's reply? Instant agreement. V and I were actually talking about this. If we can get him down to a flat rate instead of percentage, that's another $800 a month in our pockets. My mom, ever the strategist. Let's not bring it up until after his birthday. You know how he gets. How I get. Like I'm some tantrum-throwing child? I have never, not once, raised my voice at a family dinner in my life. But that's the fictional version of me they'd created to justify their greed. The thread went on and on. Timing, approach, how to manipulate me into thinking it was my idea. My mom even used the phrase, transition him out gradually. Not out of management, just out. Like I was a problem to be solved. But it was the third email that truly shattered me. From 6 months ago, Derek had forwarded a message to my mom from someone named Glenn Hartley. Subject, portfolio valuation. Glenn Hartley, a commercial real estate broker. Derek had gotten all 4 properties valued, without a single word to me. The combined estimate, $2.1 million. And in his message to my mom, he wrote, "If we can get H to step back voluntarily, we can list the 2 Maple Street units within 6 months. Dad's on board. V thinks we should move before spring market." My mom's one-line reply, "Let's discuss at dinner Thursday. Don't put this in the family group chat." I sat there, stunned. Leah had stopped sipping her tea, just watching me. "How bad?" she finally asked. 8 years, I choked out. They've been skimming income for 8 years. And now, they want to sell 2 properties and cut me out entirely. She didn't flinch. "How much?" "Rough math," I told her. "Somewhere north of $180,000. Maybe closer to $200,000 in my diverted income." Leah set her mug down with chilling precision. "Hunter, listen to me right now. Do not call your brother. Do not call your mother. Do not say a single word to anyone in your family." The gravity in her voice was absolute, and I knew, deep down, she was right. Leah said, "Good, because the people who blow up and confront immediately, they're the ones who lose. You have evidence. You have time. Figure out where you stand legally first." And she was so right. The next day, I called in sick, drove to a FedEx office, USB in hand, and printed everything. Spreadsheets, email threads, all of it. Then I went home and started pulling my own records. 8 years of maintenance receipts. 8 years of tenant communications. 8 years of contractor invoices. I keep everything, always have. It's just how I'm wired. Turns out, that annoying little personality quirk was about to save my ass. I spent the whole day organizing, cross-referencing their skimmed spreadsheet against the quarterly statements Derek had sent me. $400 here, $2,000 there. It wasn't random. It was careful, deliberate. These weren't mistakes. By the end of that day, the picture was crystal clear, but the biggest piece was still missing. My actual legal position regarding the properties. My dad set up the LLCs years ago, and I knew my name was on some paperwork because they needed my credit score. At 24, my credit was spotless. Derek's was less so. Parents were retired, so they used me, but I'd never actually read the operating agreements. I just signed where Dad pointed, trusting him completely. My second monumental mistake. The next morning, I called Marcus, my CPA friend from college. He's smart, discreet, and weirdly obsessed with spreadsheets. Exactly what I needed. "Marcus, I need a favor," I said, "and it has to stay between us." "That's how I prefer my favors," he replied. "What's up?" "I think my family's been stealing from me." I told him. "I need you to look at the numbers and tell me if I'm crazy." He paused. "Bring everything to my office tomorrow. And Hunter, don't talk to them before you talk to me." It was hitting me. Everyone else already knew what kind of people I was dealing with. That Thursday, my mom called. "Family dinner this Sunday. Nothing special. Just want everyone together." Yeah, nothing special. Just a dinner Derek and Mom had secretly planned 6 months ago to pitch me on stepping back, so they could sell the properties and cut me out. "Sounds great, Mom." I said, "I'll bring dessert." The second I hung up, I pulled up the state's business entity database, typed in the LLC names one by one, and that's when I saw it. The detail that changed everything. On 2 of the 4 property LLCs, the Maple Street ones, the exact ones they wanted to sell, my name wasn't just listed as a co-signer. I was listed as the sole managing member. Now, I know what you're thinking. No way they just forgot to change that. And you're right to be skeptical. But let me explain how this kind of mundane chaos actually happens. 8 years ago, when my dad set up the LLCs, he used his old construction lawyer, that lawyer, to get the banks happy, structured the Maple Street LLCs with me as the sole managing member. My pristine credit, my name, my signature on the operating agreement. The plan was always to restructure later, share ownership formally. But my dad, he's the king of, we'll get to that, and then never getting to it. The lawyer retired, the paperwork sat, and nobody thought it mattered because, hey, We're family. It mattered. Oh, it mattered. I met Marcus, my CPA friend, a few days later. He spent 2 hours meticulously going through my piles of evidence. When he finally leaned back, he took off his glasses, which for Marcus is basically a 4-letter word. It's systematic, Hunter, he said. Whoever built this income diversion was brilliant. Small amounts, irregular timing, always just under the radar. But over 8 years, you're looking at between $185,000 and $210,000 in rental income. That was straight up stolen from you. I wasn't crazy. You're the opposite of crazy, Hunter, he said. You're the guy who kept 8 years of receipts, which is the only reason we can reconstruct this. Your family was counting on you being like most people. Then he added, and that management fee they pay you? It's a joke. Significantly below market rate. They were paying you roughly 4% when property managers charge 8 to 10%, and they were planning to cut that even further. Marcus told me the same thing Leah did. Don't talk to them. Get a real estate attorney. Today. So I did. Leah hooked me up with Catherine Park, a sharp real estate and business disputes attorney from her firm's network. Catherine listened without moving a muscle, just soaking all in, then cut right to the chase with the perfect question. I laid out everything. Emails, spreadsheets, LLC filings. When I finished, she looked at me, folded her hands. Hunter, you need to understand your position here. It's stronger than you think. On the 2 Maple Street properties, you're the sole managing member of the LLC. That's not a technicality. It's a legal fact. Your family can't sell those properties without your signature. Period. My heart gave a little jolt. What about the other 2? I asked. Those list your father as managing, your brother as co-member. You're not on those at all. So they're separate. But the Maple Street units? Those are yours to control. And the diverted money? That's a separate, very strong issue. Breach of fiduciary duty, minimum. You have options. I left Catherine's office and just sat in my truck for 20 minutes, staring blankly at the steering wheel. 8 years. 8 years of showing up at 2 a.m. for burst pipes. 8 years of screening tenants, handling complaints, chasing late rent. 8 years of blindly trusting people who were quietly stealing from me, all while telling me I should be grateful for the opportunity. I wasn't screaming angry, not yet. Beneath it all, maybe, but mostly, I felt this intense clarity, like I'd been looking through a dirty window my whole life, and suddenly, someone wiped it clean. Everything looked so sharp. The family appreciation dinner was set for a Saturday evening. My mom went all out, texting photos of the table, asking about dietary restrictions. I'd eaten her food for 32 years, Mom. She told me to dress nice. Vanessa sent Leah a text about her outfit, which Leah showed me with a look that could curdle milk. The Friday before, Derek called. Super casual, super friendly. Hey, bro, so have you had a chance to think about what we talked about? The management thing. Yeah, I said, I have. You're right. I've been running myself into the ground. Makes sense to let someone else take the wheel. I could practically hear him smiling through the phone. That's great, man. Seriously, this is a right move for everyone. We can talk details tomorrow night. Keep it relaxed. Sounds perfect, I said. I hung up and looked at Leah. He bought it. Of course he did, she said. He's been telling himself this story for so long. It never occurred to him you might be writing a different one. Saturday arrived. Leah in a dark blue dress, me in slacks and a button-down. Mom said dress nice, and I'm nothing if not obedient. We walked into my parents' house at 6 p.m. Derek and Vanessa were already there, naturally. This was their show. Derek had a bottle of wine that probably cost more than my monthly management fee. Vanessa had flowers. My mom was radiant. Even my dad seemed lighter, smiling from his recliner. Dinner was roast chicken, potatoes, a fancy salad from Vanessa. Mom even made a cake, and a handwritten card on the table, saying, "Family first." We ate. We talked. It was all so sickeningly pleasant, completely surreal. I sat there, cutting my chicken, listening to Derek drone on about a golf trip, and all I could think about was a 47-page report in my safe deposit box. Then, Over dessert, Derek cleared his throat, the moment finally arriving. So, I talked to Hunter yesterday. He announced, beaming, and he's on board with the transition. Hunt, you want to say anything? Everyone looked at me. My mom, hopeful eyes. My dad, stirring his coffee. Vanessa, that precise, pleasant smile. Derek, leaning back, confident. Yeah, I said, slowly. I've been thinking about it a lot. And you're right. I've been doing too much. It's time for some changes. My mom reached over and squeezed my hand a little too tight. I'm so glad, honey. But I continued. Before we talk about the transition, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page about a few things, just so there's no confusion. Of course, Derek chirped. Whatever you need. I took a deliberate sip of water. So, I spent some time looking at the LLC filings for all 4 properties. You know, just understand the structure now that we're making changes. The table went quiet, not a dramatic hush, just a subtle, chilling shift in the air. And I noticed something interesting about the 2 Maple Street units. The ones you mentioned wanting to sell, Derek. His smile flickered, a tiny crack in his facade. I don't think I said anything about selling, he mumbled. Maybe I misunderstood. I said, holding his gaze. Anyway, the LLC filings. Turns out, I'm listed as the sole managing member on both Maple Street LLCs, which means any major decisions about those properties, including sale, transfer, or change in management, require my authorization. Dead silence. My mom's hand was still gripping mine, but the warmth was gone, replaced by a cold, desperate clench. I also had a CPA review the financial records for all 4 properties, going back 8 years. He found some significant discrepancies between the actual rental income and what was reported to me in the quarterly statements. Derek bolted upright. What are you talking about? I'm talking about roughly $200,000 in rental income that was collected but never reported to the managing member. That's me, by the way, for the Maple Street units, at least. My dad slowly, deliberately, put down his coffee cup. Hunter, my mom hissed, her voice now sharp, stripped of all warmth. I don't know where this is coming from, but this is a family dinner. You're right, Mom, I said, meeting her eyes. It is a family dinner, and I'm talking to my family about a family. Business. I just want to make sure we all have the same information. I reached into the bag I'd brought, the one they probably assumed held dessert, and pulled out a manila folder. I set it on the table. This is a summary of the income discrepancies. I have the full forensic report available if anyone wants to review it. And I've also spoken with a real estate attorney who's confirmed my legal standing as sole managing member of the Maple Street LLCs. No one touched the folder. Oh, and just so you know, I continued, as of 2 weeks ago, all tenant payments for the Maple Street units are now being deposited into a new business account under my sole control. The previous shared account has been frozen, pending review. Derek's face was completely still. Not anger yet, just pure shock processing. I stood up. I brought cake, too, I said, my voice calm. It's in the car. Leah want to help me grab it. Leah stood up, a silent, powerful ally, and we walked out to the truck. As the door swung shut, I could hear my mom's voice high and tight, starting to rise, but the words were thankfully muffled. We sat in the truck for a minute. Leah looked at me. You okay? Yeah, I said, and this time it was actually true. Actually, yeah. I pulled out my phone and sent one last text to the family group chat, the one Mom had said not to use for this kind of thing. For the record, I'm not stepping back from anything. The Maple Street properties are under my legal control and will remain so. If anyone wants to discuss this further, my attorney's contact information is in the folder. Then I started the truck and we drove home. The first 72 hours after that dinner, pure chaos. My phone went nuclear. Derek called 11 times before midnight. My mom's text bounced between, how could you do this to your family? Call me right now. We need to talk like adults. And then the ultimate betrayal. Vanessa of all people, sent me a message that just said, this isn't who you are. I ignored them all. Catherine had warned me. Let the initial wave pass. They'll cycle through denial, anger, and negotiation. Don't engage until they reach negotiation. You'll know because the threats stop and the questions start. And she was dead right. It took about 4 days. Day 1, denial. Derek texted me that the LLC filings were a technicality and didn't mean what I thought. He claimed Dad always intended to restructure. Said I was blowing it out of proportion. Day 2, anger. My mom actually called Leah directly. Bold move. Stupid move. Leah answered, listened for about 90 seconds, then calmly said, "Diane, I'd recommend you speak with an attorney before making any further statements about the situation." My mom hung up. Leah just looked at me, deadpan. Your mother called me a snake. Day 3, the legal threat. Derek texted me a screenshot from someone he called our family attorney, talking about challenging the LLC structure. I forwarded it to Catherine. She just snorted. That's not a real estate attorney. Sounds like a general practitioner. They're going to waste money finding out what I'll tell you for free. The LLC filings are valid. The operating agreement is valid. And your authority as managing member is valid. Day 4, silence. Crickets. Nobody called. Nobody texted. Day 5, my dad showed up at my apartment. Alone. No mom. No Derek. He stood at the door, hands shoved deep in his pockets. "Can I come in, Hunter?" Leah, sensing the weight of the moment, quietly went to the bedroom, leaving us the kitchen. I poured my dad a cup of coffee. He sat across from me at the same table where I'd first discovered those emails. "I'm not going to pretend I didn't know," he started, his voice rough. "I waited. Your mother started it. The income stuff years ago. She thought the split wasn't fair because Derek contributed cash, and you contributed labor. In her mind, labor was worth less. And you agreed?" I asked, the words barely a whisper. "I didn't fight it," he said, staring into his coffee. "That's not the same thing, but I know it's not better." "No, Dad, it's not," he continued. "Derek took it further than. Your mother planned. The selling idea? That was him and Vanessa. Your mother went along with it because Derek convinced her it was the right financial move. But she was the one who built the spreadsheets. Mom built the spreadsheets. She's organized, you know that." I almost laughed. Organized? My mother had meticulously crafted a system for stealing from her own son, and my father's only comment was organize. "Dad," I finally said, "what do you want? Why are you here?" He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. "I want to know if there's a way to fix this. Keep the family together. Figure out the money. Make it right." I leaned back. "Here's what I'm willing to do. The 2 Maple Street properties are mine, legally and practically. I'm going to continue managing them, and all income from those units stays in my account. That's not negotiable." He nodded slowly. "The other 2 properties, the ones in your name, those are yours and Derek's. I'll help with the management transition. I know the tenants and the systems, but I'm off those properties within 60 days. Then the hard part, and the money, the $200,000 in unreported income. I've talked to my attorney about options. I'm not going to sue my own family, Dad, but that money doesn't just disappear. The Maple Street properties are valued at $1.1 million combined. I'll consider the unreported income as part of my equity in those properties. Basically, I'm keeping what's already legally mine and calling it even." He was quiet for a long, long time. "That's more than fair, Hunter. I know your mother isn't going to see it that way. I know that, too." He finished his coffee. At the door, he paused and turned. "For what it's worth, I should have said this years ago. You built those properties into what they are. Not Derek, not your mother. You. The fact that we treated you like the help instead of the partner? That's on us. All of us." I didn't say anything. He just left. The fallout settled over the next couple of months in messy, painful stages. My mom eventually came around, though that's a generous description. What actually happened was Catherine sent her a formal letter detailing all the income discrepancies and my rock-solid legal standing. Once my mom's own attorney confirmed I held all the cards, her tone shifted from "how could you" to "maybe we should just move forward." She never offered a real apology. Instead, it was always, Perhaps we should have communicated better, or this whole thing just got out of hand. Classic blame spreading, so thin that nobody's truly responsible. Derek was a tougher nut to crack. He didn't speak to me for 6 weeks. When he finally called, it was because a tenant in one of his now managed properties had a plumbing emergency, and he didn't know which contractor to call. I gave him the number. He said thanks. Then, after a long, awkward silence, added, I still don't think what we did was as bad as you're making it. I just laid it out. Derek, you diverted $200,000 in income over 8 years and tried to sell properties that are legally in my name. He tried to deflect with, it was a family arrangement. Everything was shared, except the money. He had nothing after that. We haven't talked much since. Christmas was brief, polite, almost sterile. Birthday cards still get sent. But the easy big brother dynamic we had, or that I thought we had, it's gone. Maybe permanently. And you know what? I've made peace with that. Vanessa, surprisingly, sent me a long email about 3 months later. It was carefully crafted, the kind of message you draft and revise a dozen times. She apologized for her role, said she got swept up in Derek's plans, and hoped we could rebuild trust. Leah read it and said, that's the most honest thing anyone in your family has said so far. She might be right. Marcus helped me set up proper books for the Maple Street properties. Real accounting, transparent, every penny documented. Those 2 units, combined with my salary, have put me in the most financially stable position of my entire life. Catherine still checks in, telling me the LLC structure is ironclad, and no one's dared to challenge it. She also shared a sobering thought. Family businesses destroy more families than divorces do. You handled this better than 90% of my clients. As for my dad, we have lunch once a month. Just us. We don't talk much about the properties anymore. We talk Phillies, his latest garage project, just normal stuff. He's trying. I see it. Whether it's enough to erase 32 years of him siding with my mom on everything, I don't know. But he shows up, and he doesn't make excuses. Right now, that's what I need from him. And Leah and I, we're better than good. She never once said, I told you so, even though she was right for years. Last month, I asked her to move in, and she said yes. She's already reorganized my entire filing system, which tells you everything you need to know about that woman. I often think about that moment at Derek's laptop, the cursor hovering over H Properties. What if I just closed the tab, walked away? They would have executed their plan. I would have stepped back, thinking I was taking a break. They would have sold the Maple Street units, pocketed every cent, and I'd have gotten nothing. I probably wouldn't have found out until it was too late. But I didn't close that tab, and that made all the difference. Look, I don't hate my family. Honestly, that would almost be easier, but it's not where I landed. What I feel is something quieter than hate and much, much harder to name. It's the raw recognition that the people who were supposed to protect you were the ones you actually needed protection from, and that the only person who was ever going to fix it was you. So, stick with the people who squeeze your hand in the truck without saying a word. They're the ones who truly matter. I'm still processing all of this. Even now, it's a lot to unpack. So I have to ask you guys, what would you have done in my situation? Or have you ever faced a betrayal like this from people you thought you could trust implicitly? Let me know in the comments below. I really want to hear your thoughts.